because there's 4 of us today. Rocco is out, of course. As you guys noticed, someone's missing.
All right, Alan, let's go to your topic.
What was my topic? Oh, wait, was this one?
something.
What's funny is I just had a thing of mine. I was like, shit.
What sounded awesome until you actually tried to do it. Okay, so there's that.
Yeah.
Or I do kind of want to talk about accessibility in video games as well. I forgot about that because I was looking at a little clip about Uncharted 4 development and how they made they got a lot of feedback from gamers with disabilities and how they made it the most accessible game for gamers, basically in terms of options from any video game out there. I mean, it seems like right now. So they really took it into consideration after meeting with different customers, basically, that have disabilities and played. So I'll give you a little preface. At one of the game developer conferences, I think it was maybe a GDC, a disabled gamer came to talk with the Naughty Dog development team and said, hey, like, I love your games. Like, I'm a huge fan. But by the end of Uncharted 3, in the Uncharted games, they have some quick time event things where you have to mash buttons to, like, you know, open a door or, like, punch somebody or something like that. Yeah. He literally could not finish Uncharted 3 unless he had, like, an able-bodied person to mash the button because it required so much button mashing at the very end of the game. And he couldn't do that by himself unless he had somebody else do it. So literally he played through this entire like series of games, like loved every second of it, and then just had to find somebody else to finish the game for him. He couldn't even have the satisfaction of like beating the game himself, right? So I think what my interpretation of this is that really resonated with the developers. And so they made sure when they were making this new game that they had as many options as possible that people with disabilities could finish the game 100% through and not have to rely on somebody else to finish it. So they added lots of options into the game, including instead of having to button mash, you can just hold down a button and it'll basically do the same thing.
Hell yeah.
They keep, because like sometimes people can't use both of the thumbsticks at the same time, so they made it options so that the camera would focus, like if an enemy's in your field of view, the camera would kind of shift so it would frame them so you don't have to look at them, because like like in a third-person shooter you're always kind of like peeking your camera around the corners and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
You always have to be using them. And then one of the developers, actually, I think he's on the multiplayer team at Naughty Dog, is colorblind, and previously in all the other games the two teams' colors were red and green. And pretty much anybody that's colorblind cannot differentiate those two colors. So he switched it to red and blue like one night in the code, and nobody ever said anything like was wrong. Like they're just like, yeah, it's fine, yeah.
Good.
So yeah, I just want to talk about like that kind of development. Because I notice a lot of games these days don't have many options. Like maybe there's a colorblind mode, and that's pretty much it.
For sure.
So I just want to get your guys' thoughts about making games more accessible for that, and in general, like especially with virtual reality coming out, you know. They have that's kind of like going to take away using a controller almost.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of the controller, there's actually a really cool article. I don't know if you guys heard about it. There's a gamer. He's like in his early 20s, and he has cerebral palsy, and like he was having problems. So, and a place like he reached out to PlayStation saying like, I love it, but I keep hitting like the pad.
Yeah.
So this guy, at PlayStation created a controller for him. Yep. Like, and I was like, man, that's awesome. Like, and you never really think about that. Like, there's so many different types of people that play games and stuff that, you know, with those disabilities, and how are they, you know, really adjusting to that to really help them out. So, and when you brought up the colorblind thing, that's really, I never even thought about that, you know?
Oh yeah, some games, the color scheme, I mean, I have a friend from college who's colorblind, and sometimes we're playing games and he is having like a hard time figuring out, like, you know, because you're like, oh, go to like the green objective or something, and he's just like, well, I'll see you at objective D. Like, yeah, so I think it's really good, and one of the guys in the interview really, you know, made a good point. Everybody, like, you know, anybody that has gaming as a hobby, they enjoy it, you know, for the cinematic and you know, the challenge and everything like that. But for a lot of people, it's an escape. And if you're given that harsh reality that you can't even escape playing the game when you're playing the game, you know, because you can't literally play it, then I think that's, you know, weighs heavily on a developer when they can't even have everybody enjoy their game.
For me to talk about this some more, I suppose I would really want to start thinking about all the different types of disabilities. We've talked about color blindness. We talked about cerebral palsy and there's also people who play without like arms and legs.
Yeah, that was some of the things like with the control sticks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I remember people who are handicapped saying like, "Thanks a lot, Tony Hawk. I can't play your game anymore because they don't have legs or whatever."
Oh, yeah.
So they couldn't jump on the board.
Oh, because the ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like having an option, which we always talked about, but nobody ever like pulled the trigger on, was to actually be able the controller to play that way. And I suppose, what do you do with people who don't have arms? Like how can you?
Well, I mean, they have the input with like the cheek thing.
Cool.
Have you guys ever seen that?
Oh.
So.
Is it where the tube and
It's kind of, they have like the tube one, and then they also have one. I think it's like it's pressured against their cheek, and they use their tongue, like a mouse, and push against the side of it.
Wow, that's cool.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There's a guy that plays League of Legends.
No.
That plays like that.
Dude.
No.
Yeah, he
That's
streams.
awesome. That's awesome.
He streams sometimes. Yeah, he might use the tube one where he moves that with his tongue or something though. I think he might use that. Basically, it's like a joystick.
How do you do dual stick like a Halo or a Call of Duty where you need to look at?
I don't think you could.
I suppose you could track it with your head at that point, right? You could just move.
Oh yeah, if you move and then.
Yeah, maybe.
That would be
Yeah, I mean,
really hard.
I've seen like their setups are like way different. Like this one guy, he's like bedridden basically, so he's like in the bed and like has to put like the little like piece onto his like face and then just plays. Yeah, he's like gold or like platinum or something. It's
That's
like
so cool.
ridiculous.
And we
so
can't
cool.
even get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
We suck.
So I just think that was like a really cool idea, like something I've never seen
Not the best.
be like a focus. Yeah, not the best, not the worst.
We are entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really
like,
interesting.
You never really think about that, especially from like
No.
just a consumer point of view. But
I know
then
this-
even me, I was like, I fucking hate pushing this button like a million times.
Yeah.
Through, like time events. Like I'm gonna like when I play it next, I'm gonna switch on those options, right?
Purposely, yeah.
Yeah.
It's really interesting too. There's the Elite controller that allows so much more customability too now, where you can remap. I just think that should be a part, like the customization stuff like that should just really be a part of. And there's some games that have it, but there's a lot that don't. So I always thought that would be something just useful to have. I guess, I don't know, you know what happens coming from game development kind of side, like I know stuff like that gets really pushed down the wayside. You have a long list of features you want coders to work on, and then you see, oh yeah, let's make the remapping of the controller, and you're like, tough cookies. We're putting that down at the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, because everybody wants, the extra multiplayer mode, or they want the ability to save more frequently. I don't know. There's a bunch of other features that get prioritized above that, but you don't. When you see that, you think of it as a quality of life, and you don't necessarily think of that as like actual accessibility, something that gates other players from actually being able to play your game. If you look at it through that lens, I think the prioritization changes, and something like that gets really bumped up to the top.
Yeah, because I mean, you want as many people as possible to play your game, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
you want as many people to enjoy it as they can.
Exactly. Steve, what do you think about it?
I think this garbage truck really needs to rethink his fucking route, because like he's came by this same spot.
He's like, oh, I forgot that one house.
Like literally, he's driven down. He drove past our house, like you don't even know our fucking street. He drives all the way back down, goes around, and comes back to our house, then comes back down again, goes down that road, comes back down. Dude, he's driven past our house like 9 times now. Like, there's whatever. I'm so mad right now. This is so stupid. Like, if he comes back one more time, I'm gonna literally pause this and be like, "What the fuck, man?" Like,
Just
seriously.
some guy walk out. Just,
Like, it's ridiculous. Like,
Please,
no,
if
like,
that happens, point the camera.
I
when I'm
am.
watching.
I will.
see
I'll
that.
fucking point it right. Oh, it's not even using that. It's using my fucking. It's not even using the right camera right now. Whatever. It's so funny. So stupid.
Oh my god.
Anyways, what were we talking about?
accessibility in video games.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. I was gonna ask is like, I know it's a stupid question, but what do colorblind people see? Just grays or shades of grays?
There's different types.
Yeah, it depends.
Yeah.
There's like full color.
Garbage man got him.
Yeah, the sniped his.
So stupid, man.
So there's correct me if I'm wrong. There's full colorblind where you just see black and white. There are red-green colorblind where you have a problem differentiating between the two.
Yeah.
And then there's another colorblind. Is it blue-purple or yellow-brown or something? There's two different other types of colorblind that just, I don't know what do they call them. They're like the pylons in your eye, and there's the certain colors receptors, and either like half of it's out, which results in the red-green, or the other half is out, which results in like the blue-purple. And sometimes people have all of them out, and that's why it's black and white. But when that happens, they have like a real hard time differentiating between certain colors.
Yeah, basically blue and green. I mean, red and green will look the exact same to them.
Yeah.
Right.
Like when they look at it,
Yeah.
they'll
It's
look
like black.
like exactly the same.
Which is so funny because there was a football. Nike's doing this really weird thing with NFL football, and they call this the color rush thing. So like 1 week in football, the uniforms Nike gives them is just full of one color, and it's so saturated, right? And one game was the Texans versus the Dolphins, and the Dolphins were just in complete like green, and the Texans were in complete red. And like this meme started coming around. It was like who do you root for? Like what team is what? Because like red green colorblind people would just like saw the same fucking team on the thing. So they clearly did not think this through. Yeah. So I thought that was pretty funny.
Exactly.
But yeah, like, is there anything else in terms of, like, is there mental handicaps that we also need to think about in addition to physical handicaps that make games kind of hard to access?
Yeah, I'm not sure because the guy, the one main guy that was being interviewed, like it seems like something mentally was wrong with him as well. Like he had some sort of mental disability, but I wasn't sure what it was. Like he kind of acted like. Not like autistic, but kind of. I don't know. It was weird. I'm not sure, but he also seemed to have like a cerebral palsy type issue as well because his like hands weren't quite as
yeah, they're shaky.
like dexterous. Yeah. So I'm not really sure because I mean, once you add mental capability to it, then that's like a whole different group of features that I think would apply to that.
I don't know how you
area.
can accommodate for everyone at that point.
Yeah, I don't think you could. I mean, you really have it depend on the game at that point.
I think if it's like maybe like something like autism where a lot of times like bright images or something, or like sudden bright images or like sudden bright loud sounds could like trigger them to have some sort of episode, then you could have an option where instead of like the volume hitting like a peak time for like big explosions, you could have it kind of regulated to like all the same volume.
Can you do that now? Because like I have that problem with my sound.
In Uncharted, you can do that.
That's
It lets you change the difference because like Uncharted, it's basically like a movie. Like there's so much dialogue, right? And then all of a sudden action breaks out and it can be super loud. But they have a choice that like lets you change so like everything's about the same channel.
What do they call that?
It was just in the audio options. Like when I first started the game, it like let me set the range, the range of audio basically.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Because like at night we have Xander sleeping, and all I find myself doing. Because we're watching like Arrow and Flash was the same way, dialogue and then crazy explosions and then like over dramatized voices, so they're talking like this, so so it's like really low. So like I'm constantly like upping and then lowering, and it's just like it's annoying. If I could normalize that, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Huh. Cool.
So I think all that kind of stuff can be added into the programming of the game.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great feature.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if no one else has anything to talk about that, we can move on to our next topic.